Hey, Mike here. I live in Minnesota. Minnesota is cold in the winter. And so today I want to share with you my top 5 tips for snowbirds to maximize the value of being a snowbird. Now, if you've never been a snowbird before, this might be the year that you do it. I woke up today, it was 7 degrees out when I went running. I've got my gator on, covering my face because it's so cold, and I'm like, this is enough. I'm ready to be done with this. And so you might be in those same shoes. I want to help you maximize the value of what you can do. Here's our top 5 tips for maximizing your value as a snowbird. Tip number 1, instead of renting a home down south when you're there for the winter, consider buying a second home. And so you might already be saying, I don't have the cash. That seems like a lot of work, but there's a lot of value there. So tip number 1, I just want to expand your mind a little bit and think about the possibility of owning 2 homes because there can be a lot of financial benefit for you. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, look into the option of taking out a second mortgage on your existing home. Home values have gone up over the last couple of years. Chances are you have a good amount of equity in your home. So this is a chance to take a risk, take that money, and put it on your second property. You're probably saying, if I have an investment loan, I've heard that I need to put 20% down, 25% down. I don't have the equity or the cash available to do 20 to 25% down. Well, that leads me to tip number 3. Tip number 3 is look into getting a second home mortgage. So a second home mortgage is different than an investment property mortgage. The difference here is it implies that you're going to spend some time living in that property, which you are as a snowbird. So say an existing home, your first mortgage, you could get property for maybe 3%, 4% down with some of those low down payment programs. An investment property, like we talked about, is 20 to 25%. A second home mortgage, a lot of times you're looking at 10% down. Now, it's going to have a little bit more stringent requirements than your initial home, and it should. But it's going to have a little bit less requirements than it would be if it's an all-out investment property home. So this is where, for somebody like a snowbird, you can sit in the middle and experience that value by having a second home mortgage. Now, you're probably asking yourself, what am I going to do with my home when I'm gone up north? Well, that brings me to tip number 4. Now, tip number 4, I think there's a lot of value in having a medium-term rental. So your standard rental, I'm renting out the property for the full year. I'm looking for a year-long lease, something like that. Your medium-term rental is somebody that's in transition. A good example of this is people like a traveling nurse or traveling business professionals. A lot of times they don't want to stay in a hotel. The average traveling nurse, their contract is about 13 weeks. So they're looking for something medium term. Like I said, they don't want to be in a hotel all day long. And yet it's tough because there's not rentals that meet that need for somebody who wants to be in the same place for 3 months. So if you want, you can go to a place like furnishedfinder.com. And this is a website for people looking for furnished properties. Guess what? You live in the property the other 9 months, so you can have a furnished rental for 3 months out of the year for somebody like a traveling nurse, a traveling business professional. So this seems like a great marriage of need meets opportunity. So go check out a website like that. A lot of times, on Furnished Finder, it's 30-day plus rentals. So you'll see there's rentals out there for minimum of 30 days. Some of them are minimum for 90 days. And so, going and looking at Minneapolis and St. Paul as an example, there's 42,000 map searches and housing requests over the last 12 months on furnishedfinder.com. So there is demand there. It's finding, does your home meet that demand? So a medium-term rental could be a good option for you for what do I do with my northern home? Now, what am I going to do with my home down south? That leads me to tip number 5. Tip number 5, a short-term rental could be a good option for you. So what is a short-term rental? You may have heard or you may have stayed in an Airbnb, VRBO, something like that. And so this, once again, is going to be furnished. Now, because you're living there for a couple months out of the year, you're going to have it furnished. So this would be another good opportunity for you. So Airbnb, as an example, you can have nightly rates of, if it's a condo or it's a, 1 bedroom, maybe a 2 bedroom, you're looking at $100 per night. If it's something larger, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, you could have anywhere from $100 to $200 to $300 per night. And if you have a decent sized home, you could be looking at anywhere from $400 to $800 a night. So there's a lot of value there. As an example here, Fort Myers, Florida, the average nightly rate on an Airbnb rental is $180 per night. Now, how many nights can I plan for somebody to be occupying my property? Usually a good rule of thumb is 60 to 70%. You want to be on the conservative side. You can use a great tool like airdna.co. So that's airdna.co. It's a great website that has short-term rental statistics on there. So you can go and check out markets. You can see what's posted there, but it gives you a good example. So going back to that Fort Myers example, you have $180 average nightly rate. You have 77% average occupancy. You have 53% occupancy in September, the slowest month. And then you have 96% occupancy in February, your highest month. And so on average, that balances out to 77%. So you can run your numbers, get an idea of what do I want to rent it out per night. And then you can pre-plan for that occupancy and run some rough numbers based on that. Now, you may want to hire a property management company. There's more details to get into here. That's for a different video. But for today, I want to encourage you, something like that could be a good option for you. You also could explore the furnishedfinder.com, some medium-term rentals, and maybe just place a couple medium-term rentals during the period that you're not occupying your home. Or worst case scenario, you could find somebody for a 9-month rental on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or different places like that. Somebody that maybe knows they need to be down there for a few months and they're planning on leaving, you can find that rental as well. So there you have it. I should say one last thing, make sure that you check with a mortgage lender and make sure that you check with your insurance company to find out the specifications on each home. You want to make sure that each property is properly insured, that you're meeting the needs of the mortgage that you have on that. So double check with them on those things. But hopefully this gives you opens up your mind a little bit, gives you some more opportunity of what you could potentially do to maximize your snowbird experience. So if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me. We're happy to help. We're happy to give you great information and help you make a great decision.